Greetings from New York City. We need to talk about Tesla. I've been asked a lot of questions about this. If I think Tesla is a buy, is it a sell? What does the future hold? I'm going to provide an analysis that I do not think you'll hear on YouTube, at least not in the circles where we hang out. This is something I've been thinking a lot about, and thanks to you, I now have a reason to make a video about it. And I'm excited to share kind of what I ended up coming up with, what my epiphany was, because it really is a culmination of just so much obsession over, what are the best ways to invest if you want to reliably build wealth over a long time period. And so, again, this is just my opinion. This is not meant to be financial advice, obviously. But I also want to mention, I like Tesla personally. I think it's a cool company. I think it's an important company. I don't have anything against Elon Musk. Generally speaking, I find him to be a value add to the world that I live in. I think anybody that, blasts off rocket ships is pretty cool. But I know that there's people that know a lot more than me about, certain things, that have very strong opinions. So I just don't want that to creep into the actual thought and analysis here. What this brings up, though, and what I'm going to talk about is not just where I think Tesla's going and how I assess it, but also, going back to some of these really crucial lessons that we've talked about that you hear a lot about. But I feel like this is a great way to kind of reinforce them and understand them on a deeper level. So let's get to it. I'm not going to edit this, by the way. I'm going to show you guys, I can flex like these, who's that guy, Jeremy Financial Education, with his improv videos where he's just talking out of his, what? So let's get into it. So Tesla is a company that if you dig into the balance sheet, if you look under the hood, no pun intended, Tesla's a strong business. It's not just because the stock has done well over the last 5 years. The business has improved a lot in the last 5 years. They have extremely healthy profit margins. They've been lowering their debt. They deliver a product that has very high satisfaction rates, industry-leading satisfaction rates, loyal customers, a growing customer base. They've proven they can execute, not flawlessly, but this is a company that, is not just like some garbage meme stock or a SPAC or any one of these, things that someone's trying to push. It's a real business. It's a business that is formidable. I might disagree with the current valuation, but, it's anyone's opinion on that as far as that's concerned. What I want to get into, though, is, what our job is as long-term investors if we were going to buy shares of Tesla for our portfolio. The question we have to ask ourselves is, what matters the most? There's more than one thing, but in this case, the future price is going to most closely depend on earnings and the growth of earnings over time. And Warren Buffett has said this. If you don't understand why, it's something I encourage you to think that through so you understand it. But over the long enough period of time, there is a very strong correlation between price and earnings. In the short term, it can be all over the place, but over a long enough time horizon, the relationship is real. So going to the 1996 letter to shareholders that Warren Buffett wrote, he talks about this. He says, the kind of businesses that we're going to consider buying are those where, we're virtually certain that the future earnings will be materially higher in 5, 10, and 20 years out. Now, to be clear, there's not a lot of businesses where that's the case, where you can even feel confident in your future predictions. And furthermore, there's not a lot of businesses that are going to continually grow their earnings and meaningfully over that time horizon. But getting into Tesla specifically, I was initially thinking through this problem like, okay, I want to have a very definitive answer, like should you buy or should you sell? And it's really easy when you're doing something and you're thinking about, okay, I want to make a video, to try and, have a hot take, right? Because I want it to be entertaining. I want it to be honest. But, you can easily slip in this mode of like, I need to have a very strong opinion. And I went through this whole exercise. I really grinded on it. And then when I was calling it a night, after doing this for not just one night, by the way, but this particular night, it hit me. And I was like, I can't predict this. I have no idea what Tesla's going to look like in 10 years. And if I cannot do that, first of all, it's actually a real strength to acknowledge that. The best investors do it all the time. They say no way more than they say yes. And they're willing to acknowledge like, hey, I can't figure this one out. And secondly, when it comes down to Tesla and the future, we have no idea how this company is going to be when you add in all the new competition. Tesla could be the number one EV maker in 10 years from now. That's totally possible. They could crush it, right? Elon Musk could be the king of the world for all we know. At the same time, there could be a competitor that just does it better than them, that, stays abreast of customer behavior and customer preferences. Maybe they find an advantage in their supply chain. Who knows? There's so many factors and so many variables here that we really don't have any way to gauge. Tesla has, you can argue, sort of been in a lane of their own, no pun intended. I mean, there's not a lot of companies at scale, if any, where all they make is EV, electric vehicles. That's a uniquely Tesla thing. 10 years from now, that will not be the case. I can't tell you what percentage of the world will be driving EVs, but I can tell you that more than, just a couple players are going to be making them. I would imagine any car company that wants to stick around and have a future is going to figure that out, and they're going to make it work, and they're going to make it profitable. In the meantime, though, in that fight, there's going to be lots of change. There's going to be, people are going to get pushed aside. People are going to get run over, no pun intended. And when I consider that, how the heck am I supposed to tell you, what earnings growth will look like over the next 5, let alone 10 or 20 years? And ultimately, that's if you're buying individual stocks and you're serious about being, a thoughtful investor, a value investor, a responsible investor, and someone who is, has a process in place to actually have a chance of beating the market average. That's what you have to do. You have to value the business. And if you can't do that, then you can't buy the stock. At least you can't buy it and be a sane person.
If you can't figure out what the business is worth, you've got no business buying the stock.
But we do it all the time. I mean, I think most people making content about Tesla right now aren't doing what I'm talking about doing. They're not asking these questions. And I'm not saying that I'm above them or that I'm, a superior investor. I think I've nerded out on this stuff more. I think I'm more obsessive than they are. And I'm more ridiculously aggressive about finding the truth in things. And the truth of the matter is, when a company has not had a lot of competition and they're going to inevitably face a lot of competition, all bets are off. Tesla's had a great, let's say, last 5 years, and I'm happy for them. I'm happy for anyone that made money on it. And they could have another great 5 years, but they could also face, headwinds that they haven't experienced before, and the conditions change, so might the behavior, and then so might the outcomes. And that's just all I want to stress. And it goes back to something I made a video about recently, kind of like a presentation, but when Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger talk about needing to find businesses with durable competitive advantages.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to find a business with a wide and long-lasting moat around it, protecting a terrific economic castle.
It's for this reason. When a company like Tesla, in the position of Tesla, has a durable competitive advantage, you don't have to sweat too much about where they'll be in 10 years. I mean, nothing's guaranteed and you have to still watch it. But, the idea is you can buy something that's really good and it can grow uninterrupted for a long period of time. That's where the real money's made.
If you stick with stocks that can't possibly be wonderful to just put away in your safe deposit box for 40 years, then you have to keep moving around all the time. The investing where you find a few great companies and just sit on your ass because you've correctly predicted the future, that is what it's very nice to be good at.
You can just pull out a calculator. That's where the real money is made. And there's plenty of examples of that. That's what you want. You don't want to buy something that you're going to have to, sell off, or you don't fully understand it and you get freaked out because, oh God, Ford just came out with something awesome. There's all these factors. I know people are talking a lot about BYD in China outselling Tesla last quarter. If it's any consolation, Tesla is much more profitable per car. But again, all that can change, because we don't know how it's going to be different. I mean, there's a lot of factors at play here. And because of that, I can't make that assessment of the future. And therefore, rather than taking a swing at something where I don't have it's not in my zone, my hit zone, so to speak, to use the Ted Williams analogy. I almost said Ted Danson. I have to say no to it. And that's okay. That's actually like one of the most valued traits of a great investor. I'm not saying I'm that, but the last thing I want to bring up is this. Let me leave it there, actually. I want to hear what you all have to say. I hope you'll subscribe. I hope you'll continue on this conversation with me. I appreciate you for hearing me out. Love to get your thoughts, and we'll talk soon, all right? Later.